The next step in the waterproofing process for the house is to flash around all of the rough openings for the windows and doors. All the rough openings aren't done, but I'm going to go ahead and do the ones that are done just to move the process along. The product I'm using is Prosoco R-Guard Fast Flash. And we decided to go with a liquid flashing product rather than a self-adhesive wrap or tape because of the porosity of the block. We kind of made the assumption that the liquid flashing would fill the voids in the roughness of this block a little better, and we wouldn't run the potential or have the potential of water getting in behind that flat membrane stuck over the top of this. The manufacturer, when I called them, said that their product you would normally apply first and then put your waterproofing over the outside, unless you're doing a traditional stick framed home and you're using a membrane waterproofing or vapor wrap like a Tyvek or something like that. Then you put the Tyvek on and you wrap this over the Tyvek. I made the choice to put the waterproofer on first because the block is pretty crumbly when you start agitating it. It's not structurally unsound, but I mean that there's particles of concrete, and the styrofoam will come loose as you're working across it. So I put the waterproofer on first to close up that surface and give me more of a monolithic or homogeneous surface for this to attach to. If it looks like we're going to need to do it, I will come back after we get this fast flash on and take the waterproofing compound and roll the edge where the two meet to close that up if it looks like we're going to need to do that. I don't think we're going to. This product will bridge up to a 1/4 inch gap. If your gap is bigger than a 1/4 inch, they recommend that you use a gap and crack filler that's a similar product, but it has a fibrous material in it to bridge the gap. Our gaps are all within that tolerance, except for, a few places like this, but I'm not overly concerned about that because it's been sprayed pretty heavily with the waterproofing compound, and we're still going to put sheathing on it. They recommend that you go 4 inches outside the rough framing, and because we're more than likely going to center the windows in the wall, the person I spoke to advised that we carry this 7 inches inside the frame. Once your window's installed, you then come back with they call it an air dam liquid sealing product that goes around the window and seals it up on the inside, so that if you do have water intrusion, it pushes it back toward the outside of the structure instead of letting it to the inside. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark my 7 inches around this opening, and then load up my sausage caulking gun. I just bought this thing off of Amazon. I came with a bunch of tips. It had good reviews. I don't know one way or the other till I use it, but it looks like a pretty well made product, and it's made in Taiwan rather than China, so I'm going to assume it's probably a little better. To spread the product, they recommend that you use some sort of flexible spreader. Some of the videos that the company puts out online, they're using Bondo spreaders. I wanted something with a handle on it, and this is a 4 inch, so I can just use this as my guide to get it on. This is, to help me get up in the corners, and they say if you need to smooth it out, to take a chip brush cut the bristles down so it's a little bit less flexible and you can spread the product. So I'm going to mark this opening, load up the gun, and start putting this on and see how it goes. At the moment of truth. Now, on their instructions, they said to come in and put a bead of this in the corners. I'm gonna need something to lay this on. And then you're supposed to come back and do a bead, do a couple beads on each of your surfaces, and you want it to be 12 to 15 mils thick. So roughly the thickness of a credit card. And we're going to be experimenting with this a little bit because some people put it on in vertical lines, some people put it on in S or back and forth pattern. I'm thinking on this 7-inch section it's probably going to require 3 beads instead of 2. And one of the things the manufacturer cautioned against was putting too much product on, because you're wasting product and it takes it longer to cure. And I'm going to assume it's like other things that you need to work a wet edge so you don't want it to flash off, which takes about 30 minutes according to what I read. I believe that's correct. That's going to take more than that. That's going to take a lot more than that. And I'm starting to think I didn't buy enough of this. Now, one of the reasons that we went with this, other than the concern about the tape, like zip tape or one of those products, adhering to the block, is that the coverage is actually better for the same amount of money on this than with the zip tape, because the zip tape is $50-something a roll. This stuff's about $28 a tube, and in theory you should get about the same amount of coverage. I don't know for sure, because I've never used this product before. You know, most of these companies create these products for people that are doing a more traditional build, and so there's things that we're going to have to do a little bit differently because of the material we're building with. I might need to change locations and get out of the direct sun. I should have got the roll-ons. stuff instead of the cock tube spreadable version. Now, I misspoke earlier when I said that 12 mils thickness was the thickness of a credit card. It's not. It's about the thickness of a business card. Because mils is thousandths of an inch. And normally you hear it used, like you'll see the thickness of a plastic film, like if you're putting down vapor barrier, 6 mil, 10 mil, 12 mil, or with wet mills on paint. So you have a wet and dry mill, thickness of an applied coating, and what they want you to end up with on this is 12 to 15 mils. So roughly the thickness of 1 to 1.5 business cards to get this applied. I don't think that I'm ever going to get it that thin on this substrate because it is so porous that I'm going to have to put it on thicker just to get it to fill the voids. And other than quantity of product used and cure time, I don't know what the detriment would be. There was nothing in the paperwork for the product about, you know, detrimental effects of putting it on too thick. But I moved back here in the shade because that stuff with the sun hitting right on it was flashing off way too fast. And they want you to put it on between 32 and I think 102 degrees maximum. And if your air temperature is around, you know, around 95, they want you to work in the shade. And if the surface temperature of what you're working on hits 95 degrees, they want you to mist it with water so that you get the evaporative cooling. You know, I don't know. It's the surface temperature of this is not that high, but the sun hitting on it was starting to flash it off pretty good. Oh my Lord, and I'm making a mess with this stuff. I'm gonna try this out starting with the brush to get into this block and see if that helps, which it does seem to be. You know, maybe spread it with the brush and then come back if it doesn't flatten out and hit it with the spreader putty knife. So if you want to use this on the block, you're going to end up using a lot more of it to get your coverage than what the square footage estimate is in the literature for it, because, you know, they're spreading it on lumber or some sort of vapor barrier like Tyvek, which gives you a lot smoother surface. This is, with all these voids, is using up a lot of material. And even on a traditional ICF block, it's more of a homogeneous surface, so it's not going to soak up as much of it filling voids. Alright, on the block, the brush is the way to go. Probably should have gotten the roll-on like I said earlier, but I thought that this would give me more control over the application. And on the block with the waterproofer that sprays on, this may be a belt and suspenders thing. Alright, so brush on the block, putty knife, spreader, spatula, whatever you want to call it, on the wood seems to work pretty well. I think I'm going to probably have to go get another brush though. I don't know if it's going to work or it's not. Hopefully it does. Well, this is not going nearly as fast as I had thought it would because of the porosity of this block. But I'm glad we're doing this instead of trying to rely on a tape product to stick, because I don't think we would have ever got a tape product to stick.
Okay. Yeah, that's weirdly, and that's been smoothed out.
Yeah. It's somewhat self-leveling,
Yeah.
and there's no way I could have ever gotten this on as thin as they say to put it on, because the holes in this block are just
Yeah.
heating it up. Now that piece of block over there that's all smooth like I think
Right.
most of it should have been, worked beautifully.
Did you just get started?
No.
Oh.
No, I started on the front, and then Brian,
Yeah.
Michael, and Reagan came over here, and so I stopped and talked to them. By the time I got back to it, the shade was gone,
Yeah.
and it was cooking off really fast, so I
Yeah.
moved back here, and it's still not super. I think this is something that probably should be put on when it's about
70 degrees.
60, 70 degrees. But it's working.
That just looks like rubber.
Yeah. If you go over there, the one on the front of the garage that's dry, you can touch it, and it feels like a rubber. Yeah. Yeah, the dang camera keeps overheating and shutting off, so.
Oh. Yeah, you probably don't want to.
Well, I had it outside and gave up on that.
So how many tubes have you gone through?
This is number 4 or 5.
Ooh, are we gonna have enough?
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have enough to do the windows, but I'm probably gonna have to order some more if we're gonna try to seal that around the bottom, which is what I actually had intended to use this for.
Oh, yeah, around here.
Yeah. But I like this caulk gun. It's a lot better than a regular old caulk gun. Part of it too, I think, they say to do on a normal house, 4 inches inside, 4 inches outside, which is 8 inches. Well, we're doing 7 and 4, which is 11. So we're doing 50% more coverage than you would normally do. And I have spilled quite a bit of it on the concrete, so I'm letting it dry so I can go back and it should just scrape right off. Okay, so some lessons learned from doing Prosoco R-Guard Fast Flash on Legacy block. The first thing is, because of the porosity of the block, you're not going to get nearly the coverage that they say you're going to get using this product. It just soaks in, and what you're after is a continuous weatherproofing membrane around all of your openings. And to get that with the block, you've got to put quite a bit on there. The other thing I mentioned, I think a couple times in the video, I think that for this application, the roll-on would have been a better way to go because it's a little bit thinner, and I think you would get a little bit better coverage over those pores within the surface of the block. Doing the waterproofing spray on the block first, I think helped quite a bit. I did a little bit of a test putting some of this on unwaterproof block, and it was crumbly. The stuff it comes loose, it rolls around in the Fast Flash, and you don't get a continuous membrane. It ends up with a lot of holes in it. So I think putting the waterproofer on first really helped. The sausage gun that we got off of Amazon, if you need a sausage gun, you definitely need to buy one of these things. This is the box it came in. It's the Albion B12 S20. I think that has to do with the size of tube you can put in it. But the box, you know, it comes in, has a pretty good set of accessories. It's got another handle that screws on, so if you're working in framing, it's got a hook on it, you can hang it. They've got a YouTube channel as well to look at their products and how to use them. It also comes with a really good parts breakdown, and like I said, a bunch of different accessory tips. I've used most of the black ones, but different size holes, and it's got a different plunger that comes with it, so it's a pretty good deal. This that Fast Flash is pretty messy, but if you let it dry, it scrapes off pretty easy, so you can keep your gun clean and get stuff done that way, or get future projects done. I also bought a 10-pack of JES Innovations replacement nozzles, because once you run a tube through this thing, you're not going to clean it out and reuse it. It's a throwaway item. So I bought a bunch of those. I've gone through, I think there were 2 or 3 that came with the gun, and there's still 9 in here. So I've gone through 3 or 4 of them, doing all of our windows and door openings. To spread it, you know, the brush worked okay. What I ended up doing was just putting way more product on than the manufacturer recommended, and using the 4-inch putty knife or spreader to spread it. The steel putty knife, what I mostly used that for was scraping stuff off of the other putty knife. But this stuff makes a really good solid membrane to seal up that opening. The use of it on a traditional stick-built house, I think that it's probably going to work better for you than on this block. It's worked. It seems like it's working on the block. You know, we haven't we're not weather tight yet and gotten a bunch of rain on it to say yay or nay. But just looking at it, it looks like we've got a good seal around these windows and doors from using this product. It is using the sausage gun or even the caulk tube. It's not very fast. I think I probably had 20 minutes per window. Now we've got bigger windows. These windows are 4x5, 5x5, probably about 30-35 minutes in the door opening, just because you're covering a lot of surface area. I think for this application, it was probably the right choice. Zip tape is much, much faster, but I don't believe we would have ever gotten it to seal on this porous block and give us a good solid weather tight seal. But hopefully you learned something new, saw a product you've never seen before. We're really hoping that it works, because I don't want to try to fix it after the fact. But thank you for watching, and y'all have a good day.